Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Looks like ArenaNet dropped some news about the lore and the setting about Guild Wars 3. Instead of me reading this verbatim, I'll be focusing on the who, what, when, where of the news, as there isn't really too much to chew on, so let's get into it. The who and the what. In the beginning of Guild Wars 3's story, you'll be a part of one of the oldest rival guilds called the Veil Wardens. We've been trusted by the gods themselves with protecting the land, people, and the spirits of ore. In helping the inhabitants that often turn to you in their time of need, we're finding it more difficult to provide aid due to the conflicts, exhaustion, and overall lack of manpower within the guilds. And within the story, one of the biggest focuses will be the conflicts between the guilds in the territory of Orr, with magic being a powerful resource, something that Bobby says it's not really easily obtained, but given to us by the gods themselves. So not everyone can just use it, but only the guilds they're giving it to. So as the Veil Warden in right now, we used to be this prominent guild that is really kind of struggling to stay in power and favor within the people and the gods. When and the where, the story will take place roughly about 1,000 years before Guild Wars prophecies. Colin and Bobby say shortly after, when like the god of death Doom has been usurped by Grenth and the Seven Reapers. We live in Or. I'm assuming the gods also live in Or, a thriving giant city, which the gods haven't left here yet, and the technology isn't really strongly developed. Most would call it more of a high fantasy setting. Um, in terms of like what Bobby had to say, I kind of like this more grounded, nuanced approach to the story, because my biggest gripe with Guild Wars 2 is that pretty much for the past 14 years, every major encounter antagonist we've had, except for like one or two, have been like world-ending disasters with unrelatable antagonists. Not only did this bring like a level of fatigue to the storytelling, but really didn't leave time for more of a nuanced side stories to be like really fully realized within the guild and through yourself. And it feels like we'll be starting kind of from the opposite place to what we experienced in Guild Wars 2 personal story. Like from that, where we had a more of an individual starting point based on our race and region. Perhaps being a part of this guild maybe will help us build like more of a emotional relationship connection with the NPCs and people around us from the very beginning, opposed to like it just being us and then sort of like branching into different segments of the story where we're kind of meeting more people along the way instead of like maybe from the very beginning. Like maybe you have like a band of like NPC guildies that start with you right off the bat, you know? And that just seems like a very interesting way to tell the story than what we had before. Another curious thing that has me interested in the story and how it might affect the game as a whole is there's a statement in the blog post that goes, "You'll see the results of the conflicts play out in the places you spend time in, and over time, your relationship with those places, and most importantly, the people who live there, will start to evolve." Now, this sounds to me like it might be static to just you. And will this affect things like a quest line? Or will there be traditional quests in Guild Wars 3? Will it be a blend of maybe like a dynamic event system and a traditional quest line? And if it's affecting in real time, is that also affecting the people around you as well if you're in an open world setting? I'm really curious to understand how this works. And hopefully it's more of a blend of traditional questioning and dynamic event system other than just like what we've had before. I just want to see something new and fresh this time around. And lastly, I can't help but feel a very strong similarity to Greek mythology, with how Mount Olympus was the home of the gods, looking over the entirety of Greece. You can kind of see this depicted in like the Guild Wars 3 trailer with like the red banner of the gods floating above Or, kind of like under precipice. I think it would be a really interesting story to see us start from like a worshiping zealot to the gods and kind of following their wisdom to then like falling down this path of despair and loathing and hate for them, but still love for your country, right? Still love for where you live, but not necessarily like love for the gods later on in the expansions. I would think that would be such a nuanced take compared to like just a mindless zealot taking orders for expansions on in. You know what I mean? Um, that would be such a different story than we would be used to, like in terms like the Guild Wars 2 setting at least. So hoping they can go along that lines. I mean, come on, how interesting would it be to see that duality of the gods? You know, they all can't be, all very nice people. I mean, look at Balthazar. He was not a great person, Path of Fire. Extremely selfish, and was willing to pretty much sacrifice Tyria as a whole to get what he needed to get back and get his revenge for the gods. So to that, I say my favorite quote from the Char race is "Char need no gods." So what did you guys think about the first video and the blog post pertaining to the lore? Let me know your theories. What kind of story would you like to see them tell? I would love to hear what you have to say. So until next time, later.